All right, we're back on ABC24 This Week, wanting to talk about the bridge protest that actually happened last weekend, but there's been more response this past week, namely from Senator Brent Taylor, who represents Eastern Shelby County, and he wants to make it a felony for protesters to disrupt traffic like they did. We can show you some video from it. Because at the time, I-55 was already shut down for road construction as they work on that big project. You couldn't get across the river for at least an hour as protesters stopped traffic on I-40 as well. So a lot of criticism for a lot of reasons. In the case of Senator Taylor, he's like, I would defend to the death the right for these folks to protest, but when it comes to possibly having an impact on emergencies or others' lives or what have you, that's where he draws the line. Should it be a felony? Susan, what do you think? I'm
with Senator Taylor. I think that they should have every right to protest. But in my opinion, they were in the wrong spot. And, you know, they blocked traffic for at least an hour. As we were talking earlier, there were medical emergencies that were held up. There were people who had places to go. There were truckers who had certain hour time that they had to deliver their goods. And so they protest over close down the bridge for what? I mean, do they really think they're going to change the government's position because they're protesting on the bridge, or do they think that they're going to change what's going on between Israel and Gaza? I think that the protesting is absolutely right. I come from the generation where our protest really basically stopped a war, an unjust war. But I think that their time was wrong, the place was wrong, and the message they sent to the community was they wanted to do nothing else but interrupt the flow of traffic and business. That's all. Yeah, that's what I didn't understand, Otis, is why Memphis? Why then for an issue that is you could argue hundreds of miles away if you considered Washington, where they're actually deciding whether to fund the war between Israel and Gaza, but there was no impact for the trouble.
Well, that's true, but we've had protests here based on something that has happened in other places. I mean, obviously George Floyd didn't happen here, but we had a lot of protests here.
Well, it resonated here, though. More.
Well, true. I think the Israel and Gaza war resonates here, too, because you have people from both sides. I just believe that, I agree with Susan, that where it was a problem for people and could have been a very bad emergency problem for people if there were an ambulance, for example, that couldn't get through. But I'm not sure that I want to go to a felony on this. Let's make it against the law, but I just think making it a felony is a bridge too far, to use your analogy on that, and we need to find some kind of common ground.
I believe it is a misdemeanor.
It is a misdemeanor, but let's understand the full context of the bill. What Senator Taylor was seeking to do was to really target the guys who are doing donuts in the street. That is what the intent of the bill was, to make that a felony, because they're blocking the streets and they're causing some of the same problems. The unintended consequences of it that would come into play here is that when you block a bridge, you're also blocking the street or transportation. So the big picture of the bill really does help us. He wants to be able to grab that car that person is turning a donut in the street. He wants to be able to raise it to the level of a felony, because that has become a nuisance in our city. I sat with him this week in his office, and he said that's what I was really striving for in that particular bill. But let's go to another thing here. The truth about the bridge is that this is a group that took a page out of someone else's playbook and didn't understand it. They saw the bridge a few years ago and its effectiveness. I've been a part of the NAACP for 20 years or more, and in the leadership levels, one of the things that we sit down and do is we strategize about protests. We know who's going to do what, we know who's going to say what, we know when it's going to happen and where it's going to happen, and it's strategic that points to a particular end. I think this group showed up and they just decided, we got an hour, we're going to go down here and block the bridge. They didn't think about people's lives. We have a hospital on that side of the bridge. We know that that's a major thoroughfare for transporting patients. Someone could have easily lost their life in just coming across that bridge in an ambulance, and that wasn't wise.
Yeah, tens of thousands of cars a day.
Yeah.
And yeah, some of them do contain emergencies. All right, when we come back, we're going to remember a very special man in this community and for the city of Memphis, Pat Halloran, right after this.